Hello, everybody out there in Manchester, Hooks at Auburn. This is the progress report for this
Wednesday, the 14th.
Wednesday, March 14th, which means
Tomorrow is the Ides of March.
tomorrow
Beware
is the Ides of March. Not St. Patrick's Day yet, but we're going to talk a lot about St. Patrick's Day because we're doing our show that we've done for the past several years, mostly led by my good friend Mike Farley, to talk about the best parade in Manchester, which comes up a week from Sunday, the St. Patrick's Day, after St. Patrick's Day parade, a gala event, and we think by then maybe winter will really be in retreat. Yes. At least it's possible. We hope.
It will be. I am confident this parade will have glorious weather.
And it's certainly the wisdom of somebody to schedule this parade a little later than the real St. Patrick's Day, because in Boston they just had to shorten their parade because they got a little snow down there, as I'm understanding.
That's actually, we'll talk a little bit about that because people always ask, why isn't it on St. Patrick's Day? But when we get into it, we'll talk a little bit about that.
Okay, there's just a couple things I wanted to mention before we get going. And as always, please call in and be part of the show. We're live. You can call in and participate. 640-3091 is the call-in number, as you probably know, and we love participation. I wanted to just mention one thing that happened today, and that was the national movement by students to exit their schools for a 17-minute silent protest outside their schools around the country. This happened all over the country. It did happen in Manchester. It happened at West, although I understand they were inside the building, not outside. And I believe it happened at Memorial. And I went down at Central this morning at 10 o'clock. School, of course, was delayed 2 hours this morning, so the kids were just barely at school. And we were very anxious to support the kids. We expected to come out, and nobody did. And I'm still in a bit of a wonder why that was, who put the kibosh on that, because I'm sure there were students there that would have wanted to show their solidarity with their fellow students around the country. And the other thing I just wanted to mention, Mike, about this, and I'm sure we'll find out the answer to that. By the way, the superintendent was walking in the school, talking on his cell phone as we were waiting on the west side of Beach Street. And you go to Central. I don't know what it's like at Memorial, but at Central, I hadn't been down there for a while, and I was quite surprised to see that on the sidewalks in front of Central's main entrance, where they have the plaza with the Abraham Lincoln statue, signs saying "City property, no trespassing." You just can't go walk up to the front door of Central anymore.
Well, security's been an issue. There's, buzz in, buzz out now in schools, and that wasn't the case when I was a kid.
The school resource officer, who was, of course, a police person, and this was a woman, was there, very helpful, but she was very firm. We not only couldn't go on the plaza and say hi to Abraham Lincoln and, rub his foot or something, we weren't even welcome to stand on the side of Beach Street, the sidewalk side, where Central is. We had to be across the street. I mean, I
find that interesting.
I mean, it's just. When I was a kid, which was a long time ago, the idea that your schools would be these fortresses, becoming these fortresses, would have seemed very strange. And it just really struck me. And of course, my kids both went to Central, both had wonderful experiences there, did very well. But boy, times have changed, and it's kind of alarming. So I wanted to say that. And one other thing I wanted to say before I let you take off with our excellent guest, Mike, is tomorrow, March 15th at 6 p.m. over at St. Anselm at the Institute of Politics, there is a meeting of the City Dems. And this year, unlike many years, there is an actual real reason to go, and that's because we have a contest to be the next city chair now that our prior chair, Ryan Mahoney, has resigned to become Chief of Staff to Mayor Joyce Craig. And I want everybody to know that my buddy here, Mike Farley, is passionate. He's capable, and he wants to be the city chair. And I just hope a lot of folks will turn out. Any registered Democrat who lives in Manchester can come, be part of this, and cast a ballot. And I hope a lot of folks will, because I think Mike has proven his worth, number one, by sitting here putting up with me all these years.
Year upon year, Bob.
8 years or something. And not only that, he's done a bang-up job at the Heritage Commission, turned that into a real force in the city, and served many years not just as a member but as chairman. And particular to our topic tonight, he's the president of the Ancient Honorable Order of Hibernians, a charitable institution that does many good things in the city, including support Manchester's very best parade. So come out and support Mike, 6 o'clock tomorrow at the Institute of Politics at St. Anselm.
Thanks, Bob. That's nice of you.
And
Very
that's my opening speech, folks. Now it's going to get more fun.
Well, we can turn the topic. Folks, every year we look forward to this event in Manchester. It's one of the great events in the city. It is the harbinger of spring. Spring could not arrive without it. If we didn't have this parade, we would not have spring. And it is certainly our
That's for
absolute...
sure daylight savings time didn't do it this year.
No, it sure didn't. It just gave me an extra hour to shovel, and boy, my back is feeling it, I got to tell you. But we are honored and pleased tonight to have two guests on the show. One you've seen before, that's Bill Beiser, who's been serving on the St. Patrick's Parade Committee for years. Formerly the parade master. What was the official title? Director.
It was the parade coordinator.
Parade coordinator.
You know, which bear your back and accept all the lashes and get no credit for when it works.
But you have retired. You have retired from that position, and now you're playing a more supporting role, but still supporting as ever the.
I was parade
Manchester
coordinator for 7 years, and then perhaps as a like the year after, I said, I think I'm all done. I had the great honor. My wife and I were co-grand marshals of the parade 2 years ago, and when that idea was approached to me, we've never had co-grand marshals before. I said, I think she deserves it more than I do. And then there was,
a wise man, huh?
she was not present when I said that.
Yeah.
But then whoever I was talking with wouldn't accept that. And I said, well, they said, I think it's time to have co-grand marshals. And I said, I yield.
Well, certainly
There you
a certainly great couple to select as the first
Absolutely.
co-grand
Was
marshal.
that the first time that's ever been done? And
Yep.
maybe the
It's
only
the first
time?
time, I believe this is our 22nd or 23rd year, and that's the first time we've had
Cool.
two.
Very
It's
good.
always been an individual, a man or a woman.
Yes.
And speaking of individuals, we have today's this year's parade grand marshal festooned in your parade sash, Grand
Yes.
Marshal 2018.
Brand new sash.
Brand new
Sheila-
sash.
Sheila Smith.
Yes, brand new.
Welcome to the show.
you.
Congratulations on
Thank
being
you.
named Grand Marshal. I have said year after year that the position of Grand Marshal of the Manchester St. Patrick's Parade is slightly above the bishop in the hierarchy of
Oh.
importance in the city of
There you
Manchester.
go.
Just slightly. But it is a very important position. You will have many important duties to undertake for the following year.
I heard that.
And as you saw at the passing of the sash mass last
Yes.
week, when my Hibernian brother Al Heidenreich had to give up his sash, he was in tears. He was wiping
Yes.
away the tears to have to give up the honor that he carried with him for that whole year. So we're looking forward to you.
Oh,
No
yes.
pressure.
No pressure, no pressure, no pressure. You're right. I know, no pressure. Oh,
So let's talk a little bit about that. Tell us how it felt. Tell us a little bit about the ceremony that you went through last week to be honored with the sash. It started with a mass.
yes, it did. It started with the mass, and I was right up front with my own family and just taking it all in. It was just a great feeling. And
Bagpipes and flags.
My son was one of the bagpipers, so
Indeed.
that was a nice feeling too that he made it to do that with the help of Sean Markey and Skip Hebert. They were helping him tune his pipes very quickly. So yes, that was it was a nice touch for that part too, for he to be involved in it. Absolutely. So yes, when Father Jerome called me up to the altar and everything, I was like, oh boy, this is not what you usually see during a mass. So it was definitely different. And the blessing of the sash, and then, like you said, Al turning it over to me was very entertaining. A lot of people in the back couldn't see what he was doing, but he made me feel a little more comfortable, that's for sure, so. But
Well,
it was
and
a
then-
great honor.
And then, of course, the festivities continued with a tremendous Irish dinner.
Oh, yes, yes,
at the hall.
at the hall, St. Raphael's Hall, so, yes, I heard some people showed up to St. Raphael's Club looking for me too, but I wasn't there. They don't realize there are two different things, but yes, I've been attending that dinner for quite a few years now and enjoy it. And a lot of the people that came to see me and everything said that they had a great time. It was very entertaining and just the whole atmosphere and everything. It's just a nice, fun time to be at.
It sure is a great event, happens every year. It's
Yep.
become a tradition. Back before the introduction of the co-grand marshals, there was actually just one sash that was literally handed down
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
from
Yes.
grand marshal to grand
Yes.
marshal, but they've changed a little bit. You're going to get to keep that as
Yes,
a
I
memento.
am. Yes, I am. And they put a little piece of Velcro on there, so it's easy for Father Jerome to put it on you in the right direction.
I assume one of you gentlemen is going to tell us why this lady has been so favored and honored with this thing.
Well, we're going to get to that. We're
Okay.
working up. We're trying
Okay.
to build the anticipation a little
Okay.
bit. But Bill, you are in good company. As I
Yes.
said, the position of Grand Marshal certainly is an honor.
Yes,
It's,
it is.
and maybe,
Absolutely.
Bill, maybe you can tell us a little bit. Remind the viewers. You've told us the story before, but how do we pick the Grand Marshal here in Manchester? Is that is it all backroom dealing and the smoke-filled rooms? How's this done?
No smoke room with cigars and a bunch of old guys with pot bellies sitting there with the door closed. No, it's not that.
White smoke comes out of a chimney?
Not the white nor the black smoke. Actually, when the parade started, the Grand Marshal was chosen by the parade committee, and as I was driving here tonight, I was thinking, gee, those old parade committee meetings, we would get 15 to 20 or 25 people at the meeting, because it was new, and you had the officers, but you'd have all these other people doing sashes and doing traffic and all that stuff. And there was a sign-in sheet in the early years, and if, in fact, when it came to vote for the Grand Marshal, they counted up all the sign-in sheets at the meeting. If you hadn't attended a certain number of meetings, you couldn't vote for the Grand Marshal.
You had to earn it, huh?
And it worked out okay the first few years, but it got at some point, and I happened to be sitting as an observer at the table, and got a little political, and they're saying, well, we should do this, we should do that. And the decision, Tom King and Dan O'Neill made the decision to say, look, let's have a committee of the past 5 Grand Marshals. Any nominations will be submitted directly to them. That committee will decide, and then tell the parade committee, and then the publicity will go from there. So the parade committee itself is not involved. Now, it turns out, being a past Grand Marshal, I'm still reasonably active with the parade committee. Mary Ellen is not. So she voted. I told him, I said, if you don't want me to vote, that's fine. I'll stand back just because I'm still active with the committee. But it's the responsibility of the most previous Grand Marshal to marshal everybody together, the last 5, to say, okay, we got to make a decision here. We have these nominations, and then there's a parade committee, there's a Grand Marshal coordinator. This year it's Dottie Grogan. She gets the nominations to the past Grand Marshal committee. They tell her what's happening. She then notifies the committee that this is who the committee of past Grand Marshals has selected. So that's how it's worked for probably the last 15 or more years.
So it's the previous Grand Marshal from the previous year who actually gets the process going.
Supposed to,
And
yes.
knowing as we do how attached Al Heidenreich was to the position, I'm surprised that they even had a meeting.
I haven't talked to Dottie about whether Al was a reluctant chair of this process or someone who was enthusiastic about it.
Yes.
But it all happened.
And anybody can forward a nomination to this
Yes.
group?
Yes, on the parade committee's website, stpatsnh.com, that's SAINT. Don't do ST Pats, because in past years, people have found
Other things.
less than desirable sites, but
Yes.
we have rights to that.
I'm shocked that any such site would use anything relating to St. Patrick.
Well, many years ago, we actually, we had a name and lost it because we didn't renew it. So we tried to renew it, and someone went on it, and they went,
No, no.
We better
So
get rid of it.
SAINT, Pat's
St.
Parade,
St. Pat's, NH,
NH.
.com.
And if you Google St. Patrick's Parade, Manchester, New Hampshire, that
Correct.
comes up
Yes.
first, so
And
you
so
won't,
the
you can't go
nomination
wrong.
form is on there, and it's filled out, and there are certain criteria about active in the community, practicing Catholic, and active in the Irish community, active in the greater Manchester community, or the greater state of New Hampshire community. And, certain attributes and all that have to be completed and sent in. And this year,
It's me.
And we will get to that. We are going to spend the next segment, as I told you, we have 3 different segments of the show, and we're getting to the end of the first one. But we're going to spend the next one just making you blush, talking about all the
thank
great things
you.
that you've done to earn
Thank
this
you.
wonderful honor.
Thank you.
And we're going to invite folks to call in to 640-3091 if they'd like to bring up a story or two that might illustrate your involvement in the community. I think that would be helpful.
Oh, yes.
I'm sure you don't like me saying that,
No,
but we're
no.
encouraging the calls.
If there's a moment, I should add
We do.
that if someone is nominated to be Grand Marshal, and if that individual is not selected in that year, that does not eliminate that individual. Because we've had situations, I believe, I'm not going to mention any names, but one of the past Grand Marshals was nominated on 3 different occasions, and it was on the 3rd occasion when that Grand Marshal was selected. So,
So you want to pick a year where there's a weak field, huh?
well, people who are submitting don't know the field, you see, because only the people that get the nominations know the
Oh.
field. But if anybody believes they have a good candidate to be Grand Marshal, and that they submit something, and gee, the next thing there is, well, Sheila is the next Grand Marshal or something, it doesn't mean you just go away. Submit the candidate again, because if it's a good candidate, it's a good candidate, and the nominating committee, or the committee is always interested in people that qualify for this.
Well, I do want to talk a little bit, we're getting to the point where we're going to take our break, but when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about Sheila's work in the community and what caught the attention of the nominator. And I also want to talk a little bit about the company she's in. We've had some pretty hefty people who've been Grand Marshal of this parade. You're in rarefied company. It's quite an honor.
Yes.
But we'll do that right after our first break, and maybe we'll even let Bob have a question or two in the conversation after our first break. We'll see you in a couple minutes.
Okay, folks, we're back with the second of our 3 segments of this week's edition of the Progress Report for March 14th, and I'm going to be mostly a bystander because, as we've done in many years past, we are celebrating New Hampshire's, I guess, Northern New England's best parade of the year here in Manchester, the St. Patrick's Day Parade, which will be stepping off right on schedule a week from Sunday. And we are very pleased to have with us the Grand Marshal designate for this this parade, and coordinator for the parade for many years, and Bill Visor, and Caitlin, who Mike is going to introduce.
We have
who just joined us.
A new guest just joined us. We have the current president of the Ladies Ancient Order of Hibernians, Caitlin Curran. Caitlin, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm glad you could join us. We were going to move in this segment. We want to talk about Sheila and her work in the community, but since you just showed up, we're going to pick on you a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit, you're also on the parade committee as well, right?
Yes, yes.
What's your position? What do you do on the parade committee?
Right now, I'm on the volunteers and media outreach. So we're getting our volunteers ready, coordinated, and then we're also reaching out to the different media organizations there are in Manchester.
I'm sure you need volunteers. Usually, you're calling for volunteers right up until about 10 minutes before the parade steps off. If someone wanted to volunteer for the parade, what kind of work would they be doing? Is this something that pretty much anybody could do if they had a couple hours of their time?
Yes, we would be organizing the groups. You normally have groups of different bands, and they want to know where they're lining up. They can't quite see the members of the rest of their band, so then we just point them in the right direction. They line up, and the parade starts off.
And you don't miss the parade if you volunteer in that respect. You're there at the beginning, then you can cut out and watch all the divisions come through, right?
Yes, absolutely.
If someone wanted to volunteer, how would they get in touch with you guys?
They could reach us at the website, as well as our Facebook page, as well as they could reach out to me personally. My email address is Caitlin, CAITLIN .Curran, CURRAN @yahoo.com, and I can make sure that we get back to everyone.
Well, folks, if you do have some time and you'd like to see what it's like to put on a parade, this is a pretty easy opportunity. You call, you'll get a place to show up, you show up, help folks for a couple hours, and then go watch the parade after that. It's pretty nice. So reach out, check the website for that. And now I think I'd like to steer back. Oh, before we go, Caitlin, tell us a little bit about the Ladies AOH. We've promoted the AOH on the show before, but we really haven't done a lot of talking about the Ladies AOH. Who can be a member? Are you accepting new members?
Yes, as long as you are at least 16 years old, Irish Catholic, and if you aren't Irish, like if you were adopted or you married someone who is of Irish descent, those are also qualifications to join the Ladies AOH. We actually just started our own Facebook page, so you can find us in Manchester, New Hampshire, Ladies Ancient Order of Hibernians.
Excellent. So check out that Facebook page. The groups such as the Ancient Order of Hibernians and the Ladies Ancient Order of Hibernians are always looking to get more people involved. Both organizations do a lot of great work here in the city. If you're looking for an outlet to do work in the city and also get to know some really great people, I got to tell you, the AOH that I'm a member of was one of the most welcoming organizations that I have ever been a part of, and I've been involved in a lot of organizations. But boy, from the minute you walk in, you're a friend, and I'd encourage anybody who's interested to reach out, check those Facebook pages, and try to get in touch and join up. But back to the parade. Sheila Smith, Grand Marshal 2018.
Yes.
Bill, give us a half dozen of the previous Grand Marshals. Of course, yourself and Mary Ellen excluded, but we've had some pretty hefty Grand Marshals, haven't we?
Well, the first parade was 1996. George Smith and his band of mighty men, and Tom King and everybody organized it, and Bishop O'Neill was the initial Grand Marshal. The
Yes,
first
he
one.
was.
Three giants of the community.
And,
that we
and
can
he
remember.
was, at the
Yeah.
time, we didn't know it, but he was sick, and he was having
Yes.
trouble. He was going to ride, and after about the first block, he said, I'm going to walk. And he walked the whole parade route, and nobody knew he was ill. And Judge McLaughlin was a past.
Marty Laughlin, yep.
Marty Laughlin. See, I didn't grow up around here, so I didn't know him that well.
Yeah.
Jumbo-
Long-time federal court judge.
Jumbo Riley,
Jumbo Riley, who can forget Jumbo Riley?
Sister
yes.
Patricia Sullivan, who
Yes.
for many, many years was in charge of the Sisters of Mercy.
Yep.
There's a sister whose name who was over at CMC, who I'm forgetting, but she was very well known. She set up the a number of programs for women who are pregnant
Yeah.
and didn't know how to raise new children, didn't even know how to cook. She set up these programs, collect clothes and all that. So we've had quite a large group of local stars. And
Yes.
Jack O'Connor, if you're old, I'm not old, but you see, Jack O'Connor was the one who was in charge of the lamplighter. So anybody that
We've had him on the show.
he was on this show, and I moved to New Hampshire 18 months after the lamplighter closed.
Oh,
Just missed it.
So it's one of the bad, I never heard of Jack O'Connor until he became Grand Marshal. But there are people of great fame, nobody of infamy, only great fame have been Grand Marshals. Marty Quirk, you were talking about the sash. Marty Quirk always told the story that I think Rick Walsh was the Grand Marshal after Marty Quirk. And so you didn't really do the sash. The sash was at church, and Marty came to Mass at St. Raphael's, and he says, Rick, he says, the sash is all set. I got all the Guinness stains off of it.
Well, that perhaps will be alleviated with the new sash every year.
Yes.
So we won't have to worry
Yes.
about that.
Any stains, you get it on yourself.
So, yeah, there you go. Good one.
Well, Sheila, we're looking at the press release that came out for you. You've been a member of the Ladies AOH for over 20 years.
One of the originals.
One of the
Yes.
founders.
I'm
huh?
one of the founders,
No kidding.
yes.
That's
Yes.
how surprising could that be, though? Really.
They had to wait for me to get out of work in order to hold a meeting, in order to have us become a charter.
No kidding.
Yeah,
So
oh
you
yeah.
held everything up.
They had to wait for me to get out of work, yeah.
Well, Mary Ellen was the founding president, and they tried
Absolutely.
to have it one night, and they didn't have enough members. It was at Sweeney Post, and so the installing team came up from Massachusetts. And these
Yeah.
ladies are zealots. They are really zealots, strict. And so they didn't have enough ladies. So Marilyn Cash and a couple of the others went out to the bar. So a couple of ladies says, "You're Irish, come on." They went out there. And the ladies from Massachusetts started talking about saying, this is what your commitment, this is what you have to do, da-da-da-da. And the ladies from the bar said, I don't think I want to do that. They got up and left. So they said, well, you don't have enough people. We'll do it next month. In the meantime, I don't know if you heard this story, they lost the statue of St. Bridget.
Yes.
You cannot have anything without the statue of St. Bridget. So my wife was running around for 2 days frantically before all these Massachusetts people were going to come up, trying to find who had the statue of St. Bridget so they could have this thing. It was at the Bedford Library.
Bedford
or something.
Library, yes.
It was, you'd think it was a bunch of Irish men.
Yes.
You'd think it was a bunch of men doing it, Mike.
That is kind of, now that you mention that, typically
Yes.
it is the women who hold the Irish household together and
Yeah.
take care of these details that the men have, for some reason, a difficult time taking care of.
True
But,
story.
Yes.
They
So-
found St. Bridget finally.
So-
We used it
so-
many times.
Born out of adversity, the
Yeah.
Manchester chapter of the Ladies AOH arose, and you as a founding member.
Yes.
And you did say that they had to wait. Were you working in the same place at the time?
Yeah, still, yes. I've
So
been
let's
there
talk about
32
that.
years.
If anyone says, I think I recognize
Oh,
that
I hear
woman,
it. I
where
hear it
have I seen that face?
every day.
Where is that? Where
I
do you
work at the Puritan Back Room for 32 years. So
Now,
yes,
we happened to, in fact, just a couple weeks ago, we had one of your bosses on, Chris Pappas was.
oh
on the show.
yes, yes,
And,
yes.
I hear he's a real tough guy to work for. I
You
hear-
do? Oh no, he's wonderful to work for.
See, I'm serving you up a softball
he
here.
and he and his father both are the best to have as bosses. They're amazing. They are amazing. They do like their politics, that's for sure. But they definitely are. They're such great people. The donations that they put out
Oh, yes.
day after day.
Yeah.
Is
You
unbelievable.
could almost never turn you down if you have
Oh.
something you want to do that's a benefit to the city of Manchester, where you need
Oh.
some chicken tenders or
Oh,
something.
anything, or gift cards
Gift cards,
for
whatever.
fundraisers.
You can
to-
count on those people
And
to
absolutely,
be there for
absolutely.
you.
Oh, yes, and that's been,
pretty much every time.
as long as I can remember them doing that, they are beyond the best in the, I
Well, I
see
mean, they're
tons
doing
of
something
food
right
and
to keep
the ice
someone for
cream.
30-something
Yeah,
years,
and I'm not
my
the longest waitress there either.
That's, in these days where people move around
Oh,
and jump around to get better
absolutely,
opportunities, to
yes,
have that kind
yes,
of
yes.
employee loyalty is
Oh,
really something.
absolutely,
Yeah.
so that's for sure.
Well, get ready and put on your seatbelts, folks. We have a call from the audience.
Oh,
Let's,
gee.
We've got Richard on the line. Richard, go ahead. You're live on the progress report.
Yeah, I wanted to call in regarding Sheila Smith and add some comments I'd like to share about some of the great work that she's done.
Well, we'd love to hear it. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah,
So go right ahead.
yeah. So
Make me cry.
yeah, I've known Sheila for well over 10+ years, and I've never seen a person who's tirelessly put such effort towards, you name it, whatever gambit of youth, age, background, she is supporting and helped through directly through whether it be giving them clothes,
Nice.
food, any other supportive items just throughout the year. Again, just you name it, whatever array of background in the church and directly through the community and school has always been a person who I've seen just continuously help individuals out in groups and families, again, whether through food, clothing. She probably would let them live in a house if she could. But I just wanted to speak to such an amazing woman who's done some great things out there. And I just want to kind of acknowledge that. And that's really it.
Well, Richard, we really appreciate your call. We thank you for calling, and you're
Oh, my
echoing the
gosh.
sentiment that we feel right here,
Yes,
and I'm
yes.
sure he's not alone.
Oh, no, no.
Because that seems to be a consistent story that I hear from folks when they talk about you, right along with that story about how much of a hardball boss Chris Pappas is.
Oh,
Now, I was just trying to bring that up.
I know,
We all know
I
Chris,
know.
Chris Pappas is an easy guy to like.
known
isn't
him
he?
since he was a little toddler, so yes.
And Richard sure speaks highly
Oh,
of you,
yes.
and that's what's in this press release here.
Yes.
You know, you've worked with the Adopt a Family program. You want to talk
Yeah.
a little bit about your
Well,
work with that? 'Cause that's something
that
our
is
guys
part
are-
of your group, actually.
couldn't do it
Yes.
without the ladies,
Oh,
though.
yes, absolutely. That, yes, for years that the ladies have done the shopping. The men help out with the finance part of it, because our group is a lot smaller than your
Mm-hmm.
group is. So for years, we'd be down right in St. Anne's basement of the church with our dinner and doing all our wrapping and everything else that goes on. But yes, and many times that they would be picking names through the Salvation Army and stuff like that. And then they decided a couple of years ago to pick it a little closer because just watching where it was going and stuff like that. So I offered to do it through Wilson School, where I work at my day job, and then I could see where it was more needy, you know, people just putting their names in and stuff like that. And I found it worked a lot better. And sometimes, you know, I've had great social workers from school that I worked with that just asked for some help, and that's how I started doing it. And the men's Hibernians have not just helped at Christmas time; they've helped a couple of other times when it was needed.
Well,
So-
I'm here to vouch for the
Yeah.
the AOH.
Yeah.
We try to stand up when it's needed, but this Adopt a Family program is something that not a lot of people really
Yes,
know about.
yes.
It's a very kind of quiet thing that we
Mm-hmm.
do, but it's a Christmas time thing where you're right. We used to work through the Salvation Army, but we've kind of tried to zero in a little bit more
Yeah,
locally, and
locally.
we've looked to
Yeah.
schools
Yeah.
in the heart of the city
Yeah,
that might
absolutely.
be struggling a little bit and
Yeah.
might have some kids who could use our help.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been able to really identify families, and what we do is we ask them what they'd like to have. It's not just a generic gift.
Oh, absolutely.
We get a Christmas list from the kids, and then we go out, we fundraise all year long so
Yeah.
that we can fund the purchase of the gifts, and
Right.
the ladies help us purchase the gifts, and some of the guys purchase, and then we distribute them
Yeah.
right around Christmas time. And they're
I-
all decorated and wrapped up because the ladies do all the decorating
Yeah.
and wrapping. They wrap all the presents for us and make it easier for us, and we get the glory of handing them to the kids. So,
Well, a couple of years ago, I followed you guys in the middle of a snowstorm. And I was on one of those
Yes, so
runs
you-
with
you were out there, so
I've been on that run before
you've
too.
seen
so,
the impact it
yes,
has, though,
yes.
haven't you? It's quite
Absolutely,
something.
it is. It's
when we show
amazing
up.
when you show up with the not just that, the food you distribute too is. I was amazed the first year that I saw the turkeys and the full dinners.
Yep, that's a new thing that we just
Yeah,
started.
yeah.
I think 2 years ago we
Yeah,
started
yeah.
throwing in a Christmas dinner with the gifts.
Yes,
And,
and I remember last year at school that we were approached like the day school was closing for the Christmas break, and all of a sudden you guys come down with a turkey that somebody needed and some gift cards because we didn't have time to buy the gifts, so we gave the gift cards to the mother and told her, it just was wonderful.
No, that's-
You know, one
Wonderful,
of the things that
wonderful
just, I
feeling.
think is just wonderful about your being selected, Sheila, and the committee has selected so many others over the years. They're not the CEOs of the big financial institutions
No.
necessarily. They're not the major political figures. They're people that are doing, real hard work jobs. I guess you work a couple of jobs, I
Yes, I
guess.
do.
And have for a long time, but make a real contribution. And it's just wonderful that this organization recognizes these people who, don't oftentimes they're not eligible for
No.
recognition because they don't hold highfalutin positions.
Yes.
This is a real wonderful thing.
Thank you.
And this year is a perfect example of a real hero
A real hero.
who might not
Yeah.
otherwise have been noticed.
Certainly,
And,
I certainly agree with that. Yep.
Yes.
So we're at our second break. I told you it was
Oh,
going to go
gosh,
fast. We're
yes,
almost
I
through
guess.
this. You going to make
my
it? Your
God.
eyes are
I
tearing
know,
up. You're
these
getting all
lights
emotional.
well, then those lights are killing me.
Well, it is warm, but
Yes, it
it'll
is
be over
warm.
soon. So, folks, if you'd like to call in, our phone number is 640-3091. If you'd like to say hi to Sheila or have any questions about the parade, any questions about the AOH or the LAOH, we'd love to answer them for you. We'll be back in just a few seconds for our final segment, and thanks for watching. Hope you come back.
So here is the progress report for this Wednesday, March 14th. If you haven't tuned in before, you will recognize this as a show we've done, Mike and I, for several years in honor of the best parade in Manchester, the best parade in all of northern New England. Hell, maybe the best parade in all of New England. I don't know.
I think it's the best.
It's the best. And that's the St.
It's
Patrick's
only
Day.
the largest in northern New England, but it's the
Northern, yeah,
best,
best.
all the way to
There
New
you
York
go.
City.
And that's going to be stepping off Sunday,
25th.
the 25th, the Sunday after next. And we are very pleased to have with the Grand Marshal designate for this year, Sheila Smith, who's here with us.
Yes.
And it sounds like a great choice. And Bill Lizer has been many years working on the parade, still very active, but was the parade coordinator. And Caitlin from the AOHL.
Ladies AOH, yeah.
LAOH.
Ladies AOH.
As long as you don't say. But yeah, and you know what we haven't talked much about, and that is the parade itself. And so we're going to take the heat off you a little bit,
Oh, thank
Sheila.
you.
For,
Thank
you know,
you.
we'll
Get back to me.
as Bob mentioned, the parade's going to be on March 25th, 1 week after St. Patrick's Day. It's typically not held on St. Patrick's Day. It's usually held 1 week later. And Bill, you want to repeat the recitation you've made so many times as to why we do it that way?
Well, as the storms have come along, I
The evidence is right there, huh?
I think we have evidence it can snow in March.
I wasn't the treasurer. I was active on the committee way back when. I may have been the president of the OH, or I was an officer in the OH. And I think it was perhaps the third year of the parade, and we always had it on the first weekend in March. And there was a monster, just like one of these, a monster storm hit, canceled everything.
Yep.
So, okay, well, they said, we'll have it the next week. Well, when they had it the next week, they lost two high school bands that were not local, but, that were going to South Boston or some other places. So not only do you have a problem with weather, you have a problem that before St. Patrick's Day, you tend to pay a premium, whereas after St. Patrick's Day, most of the entertainers are glad to get the gig on the 25th of March because the big demand is from the 1st to the 17th. And a storm just like this occurred that one year, and that Jim Sheehan was parade coordinator for
did.
11 years, if you can
Yes.
imagine that.
Holy smokes.
But that's when he decided, look, we got to have it at near the end of the month.
Yep.
And the only time we haven't really had it on the final Sunday is if it happened to be Easter. And, you know, with the,
Yep.
whatever the vernal equinox and whatever else determines when Easter is. But normally it's the last Sunday in March, unless it's Easter Sunday, then it's earlier. And there are times when we try to get different bishops in town, and because it was Palm Sunday, they had other responsibilities. And I believe it's Palm Sunday
Yes, it is.
this month also.
Yeah, right, yeah, right.
And
It
when I was
is.
parade coordinator, I got numerous emails from various folks who said, you know, you're having it on Palm Sunday, and I can't get to church and get to the parade on time. To which you just can't respond.
There are arrangements can be made.
Yes.
There are early masses, and there's
Yeah.
also the Saturday evening mass,
Yes.
which fulfills the obligation.
Well, we
Yes.
had the problem always met for a few years with Andy Susi at Londonderry, and he said, you know, you always want us to come down early. I got these kids that they go to, they aren't Catholic, but they go to church Sunday morning. And in the meantime, I'd been to a parade where the pipe band from Ireland was in the last unit in the parade, and I got talking to the guy afterwards at DOH Hall down in Rhode Island. He says, well, Bill, don't you understand in Europe, the best unit's last? So Londonderry was always last, which allows Andy's churchgoers Sunday morning. He was very happy about it because all his kids could be in it then.
Nice.
That's
And,
great.
and
Nice.
Londonderry will be back
Londonderry
again this year.
will be
and
back.
We always
Yes.
recognize them because they fill the whole street from
Oh,
curb to
it's
curb and a
amazing.
mile
Well,
long.
what
They're
are
a
they renowned band? They
Oh, they
march in the
sure
Rose
are.
Bowl parade. They
Yeah.
march in presidential inaugural parades.
You know, the reason
They're a real institution.
they are picked for the Rose Bowl because of their experience here in Manchester. It's that particular feather in their cap
Really?
that sets them apart. It's the Manchester.
We had the
Wow.
Rose Bowl, I don't know what they
I'm
call
making
it,
all
the
this
grand
stuff up, folks.
coordinator.
Oh, okay.
No, the grand coordinator from the Rose Bowl was actually honored in the parade
Last year.
last year or the year before.
Last year, yeah.
And about 4 years before that, we had a banner and a car and a convertible for the then one, and he and his wife were coming. We had it all set up. It was all in the parade, and what happened is they had illness in the family with about 5 days before the parade. They had to cancel. So I go over to Jimmy Walsh and I say, you got to change the banner, you got to do this, we got to change the lineup. But that's the relationship Andy Susi has with people in higher places, including going to China for the opening of the Olympics in China.
So what are some of the good features this year, and how many divisions, and what's it look
Well,
like?
we normally have 5 divisions. I think they're still having 5, aren't they?
I think it's
The Grand Marshal Division, and then green, blue, white, and gold.
gold. Yep.
And the parade has varied in size over the years, either intentionally or unintentionally, based on our budget sometimes. But I believe they're still having 5 divisions, and the Grand Marshal Division is where Sheila will be.
Yes.
And somebody should consult with you as to who do you want, and how do you want it, and how many family members. You can have 100 people or 20 or something like that.
Oh,
The Grand Marshal
yes.
Division, the Grand Marshal really kind of says, here's who's going to be near the head of the parade. There's a color guard, and then if I want the OH pipe band ahead of me, behind me, or I want this, or I want that,
Yes.
and things like that. And there are a couple other well-known marching units. I think, are the Middlesex County Volunteers coming again?
I believe they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're a stunning
Yeah.
unit,
Yes,
and
they
they're
are.
white, just outstanding. They play all over. They played in Australia. They play with the Boston Pops. They come up here and endure our weather to play. And we always have them in the first division because they're slow, real slow.
Aha.
And
See?
the people that support the parade are the names you see on the banners.
Oh, absolutely.
So you see the names on the banners. Those are the ones that pay the lion's share of the money in.
So
we
give
can
them
put
some
this
nice
parade in.
applause when they come by.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about money. This parade cost the city of Manchester how much?
$0,000. Not a penny.
Absolutely nothing. This is a private parade put on wholly through donations and the effort of folks like yourselves, and I'm going to be told not to tap the table, folks like yourselves, volunteers who put this parade on, raise the money.
That's correct.
And let me tell you, the budgets are, what are we talking for a budget for a parade of this size, Bill?
Well,
This is not small potatoes.
The last meeting that I attended, we usually have a separate budget for all the entertainment, the marching units and the banner bearers and all that. The last number I saw was about $28,000 just for the entertainment part of it, the bands and things like that.
Yep.
But then you have,
And there's more
there's all of the,
incidentals.
oh yeah, the logistics.
Fire
It's
department,
about,
police
it's about $55,000 budget overall. Because we have to pay for a complete police detail.
They've included a bomb sniffing dog now.
Well, these days, you
Yeah.
gotta pay extras,
Yeah,
I guess.
There's,
you know.
there's now an extra cost.
And you pay for full detail, and in fact, if you have horses, there's an ordinance that says you have to have a sweeper,
Oh,
a
yes.
little machine, charge for that. If you'll note, I don't think they're up yet, but are the Irish flags yet up on Elm Street?
Oh geez, I haven't
did not
looked
know
up,
it
I
is.
must have been
Anyway,
looking at my
the city-
shoes.
Well, look.
The city puts them up, and the city charges us to put them up, which is fine. And the city provides all the U.S. flags that line Elm Street. And the parade committee buys all of the Irish flags that line
Wow.
Elm Street. But those guys put them up because, they got the high boy lift and
bucket.
all
Yeah,
that.
they got the
But
equipment.
we get charged for
Yeah.
that. We get charged for the use of the bleachers and the review stand and all that. And that's just the way it's always been.
And is the shamrock painted on Elm Street yet?
Yes.
We did it last week.
With
Yeah,
much
last week.
adversity, last Saturday, the two of them got put on there. It
Yes.
was nasty there for a while.
Blow torches
Windy.
to heat the
Oh,
pavement,
yes.
I'm
Yes.
sure,
Oh,
because
yes,
the
to
paint.
dry, it
Yeah.
was rain, it was misty, so we had to dry the, right in front of City
Well,
Hall
you
and
got it done
everything.
in the first try. I think last year they had to come back because they weren't able to get them painted on the first
Well,
attempt.
yeah, we did punt one of them because of a storm, but they happened to get it last weekend. A couple of years
Yes.
ago, torched everything, put it on, but it was misting, and the colors started to run, so poor Jimmy Walsh went out there dodging traffic with a black can of spray paint, spraying around the edge of the shamrocks because the green was running out towards the curb.
Oh, my gosh.
So we had-
Oh, you
we had to
put in
trim
the
up-
highlights of
trim up the edges.
Well,
It's too
you know,
much.
those shamrocks, they usually last the whole year long. You can still see vestiges, you know where they've been, so.
Well, the challenge this year is the city of Manchester had the bad grace of repaving Elm Street. So
There
we
was
get out there
nothing.
looking around saying, where where
Yeah.
are last year's little
Shamrocks.
edges? So we had the Walsh artist group. They had to
Yes.
draw new.
Oh, no
things in-
kidding.
Yeah,
Did
oh,
they
yeah.
freehand it?
Yes,
Or did,
yes.
really? No
Yeah.
kidding.
Well-
I'm going to have to go take a look at
Yolanda.
those.
Yolanda is very
Yolanda and Jim are
talented.
artists, and
Yeah.
they did a
Yes.
fine job.
Yes, they did a great job.
Well, folks, we've talked a little bit about the contribution that the parade committee gives to the city with this parade, $55,000 worth of value, if not more. That's all the more reason for you folks to come out, because a parade of people marching down the street, if there's no one on the sidewalk watching and cheering and wearing green hats and everything else, it really, it's a quiet and sad thing. So
Yes.
come on out.
Oh, it
It's even if it's a little bit chilly, that's fine. It's going to be a great sunny day, and we'll
do-
start the springtime.
I do want to add that we, even though we are a charity and nonprofit and we collect money, we're also collecting food donations at the grandstand for New Horizons because, we like to reach out any way we can.
That's a great idea.
Very, very important. So bring a canned good with you when you come down and watch the parade. Good way to set a good example for kids too. If kids can come down and see what it's like to give to the underprivileged, and that's really, speaking as a Hibernian, our relationship with the New Horizons shelter and soup kitchen is a long-standing one. We regularly volunteer with teams of Hibernians down there, and we're always looking for ways. We donate to them from our charitable contribution committee, and we're always looking for ways to help. So I'm glad the Ladies AOH has put together this food drive, because usually this parade is fairly well attended, and if even a small percentage of the folks who came to the parade were able to bring a canned good or a boxed good or some pasta or something that's going to have a shelf life, that would be a very big bump to the pantry over there at New Horizons. So we'd encourage people to do that, absolutely.
Where did you say they're going to
at the grandstand where you're going to be at the as soon as you finish your march.
But if people hand it along the way, because we're going to have the trolley, we can put maybe a bag or something up on the trolley.
we would not encourage that because that actually would raise our insurance premium.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So-
can't have interaction between the crowd and the parade during the parade.
Yeah.
But on your way back, as you're making your way down Elm Street,
Yeah.
stop by the grandstand
There
right
you
in front
go.
of Veterans Park.
We'll
Yeah.
be there.
Or better yet, get rid of those heavy cans early, drop them off, and then go up and watch the
There
parade.
you go.
Yes,
That's a good
yes.
idea.
So we're going to be doing a good thing. We're putting on a great piece of entertainment for the city of Manchester. We're honoring a wonderful volunteer who has given her entire life in a quiet, steady way to help the city of Manchester. We're going to be raising the food resources of our primary soup kitchen. I mean, what can possibly go wrong on a day like this?
That's right.
And we've had enough snow thus far in March
Yes.
that
I think we're done. And you know
all
what?
done.
Even if we get a little bit next week, that's fine.
all-
It'll
that's
all be
okay.
melted. The warm weather will come.
Yes.
So
Sunshine shining on us.
And this is just a wonderful gift you people provide to the city of Manchester.
Yes.
It truly is just a stunning, wonderful thing. It's free to attend.
Free to attend. That's
And
the other good
you know,
part.
you can't have a better show than a great parade with some of the best marching bands you can see.
Yes.
I assume there'll be a lot of really interesting floats, as there always are, and you know, maybe the guys in the little cars will be going around with
The Shriners.
The Shriners will
it
be-
really is a full day gig if you want to come into town, because since we kind of affiliated with the road race, a lot of the runners are running
That's
early,
right.
Yeah.
plus their families. And when I was parade coordinator and I'd come stumbling down after the end of the parade, totally exhausted, go to the grandstand, they're taking it apart, I'd still see people with numbers walking
Yes.
in and out of the restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and the local businesses really eat
I
this
love
up.
it.
They
Oh,
throw their
they
doors
do.
open, and they have
They do.
specials, and
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
So you
the
got the
city
race,
really.
you have the parade, and you have the is it the Battle of the Badges?
Yes, Chad's Battle
Yep.
of Badges.
Battle
will
of
be going on
Badges
at
will
3
probably
o'clock.
kick off
That
about
afternoon, right after
an
the
hour and a
parade.
half after the parade ends.
yeah.
And then, of
Yes,
course,
nice.
if you stick around downtown, there's a very good chance that you may see a random bagpipe band marching through the city with
Oh,
their
yes.
bagpipes and flags and wandering into this pub or that bar, and
Yes.
If you look really hard, you might find a green beer somewhere. It's entirely possible. And it kicked off with the Manchester City Dems have one of their major events the morning of that parade at the
Oh, yeah.
Tower Cafe.
Yep.
And this year we're honoring Ryan Mahoney.
Oh,
Nice.
He might be Irish, I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but he might
Yes.
be.
Sounds like it.
Ryan Mahoney. He's our honoree, and that'll be just before the parade kicks off. So you'll have a lot of members of the Democratic Party that are going to go to that. Then they'll stay and go to the parade, and
Nice.
it makes a wonderful day, right from breakfast right
great.
through.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, we've gotten to the end of the show. Thank you guys for coming. We really
Yes.
appreciate it. We will definitely see you at the parade, if not before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sheila, I hope that you enjoy the time leading up to the parade. I hope you have a spectacular day on the day of the
Yes,
parade.
absolutely.
And then I hope that the following year is as wonderful for you as it has
Yes.
been for poor Al Heidenreich, who had
Oh,
to give
yeah,
up the
you had
show.
to give it up.
the
Yes,
sash this
yes.
And again, thank you for all you're doing for the city, and not just in the parade, but in the other charitable endeavors that you
Yes.
participate in.
Yes.
It's a great
We do.
contribution. We all want to make a difference to other people, and you certainly are doing
Absolutely,
that.
we do. Want to make a difference.
So, that's
Come to
wraps
the
it
end
up.
of another hour.
We'll be back next week with another edition of the Progress Report. Look up our Facebook page, Progress Report, and we'll tell you what's happening once we get it scheduled.
Alrighty.
And go out and vote for Mike Farley tomorrow night at St. Anselm's.
Yeah, we'll
for
see you there
city
tomorrow
chair.
night,
All
folks.
right.
Take care.